everyone, we are live.
Hey.
Good morning. Welcome to Braveheart Conversations. I am Jillian Aurora and I'm here today with my beautiful co-host Marie Wallace.
Hi guys.
And today I'm super excited. We're going to be talking about priorities. First of all, I just want to say thank you wherever you are joining us from. Thanks for being here today. On Facebook Live, you can find us every week in our group Braveheart Conversations. So you can find us at facebook.com/groups/Braveheart Conversations. You can also find us on Spotify, Podbean, and iTunes, all the places. So wherever you're joining us from, thanks for being here. So let's get started. Priorities. The reason why this came up was as I was kind of pondering my journey this last week, thinking about my own limitations. It's been interesting to reflect. So at one point in my life, I felt I could do it all, right?
We can. No.
I call it the superwoman complex. Because I really thought that I could have all the jobs I wanted. I could have all the projects, all the relationships, hobbies, everything that I wanted to include in my life. I would try to cram them in. And so I thought instead of thinking I needed to let some things go, I just needed to work harder to keep them all in, which meant, if I needed to lose sleep or I needed to, maybe skip a meal.
Because you can sleep when you're dead, right? That was my
saying,
motto.
Yeah. And so I would try to just fit everything in, and then I would judge myself if I couldn't get it all done. And what I found in doing things that way is I really didn't enjoy them very much because you're rushing. I have this much time to get this much done, and then I've got to do this, and then you never feel like you've gotten everything done in the day, and that feels
Well, and your
defeating.
relationships don't feel like they go deep enough because you're busy moving on to the next thing, and so you're not really spending quality time with people and really truly enjoying them. So yeah, I've been
Right. So that was really huge for me. And I fought that for a long, long, long time. Is I would just say, well, I have 5 hours to get this done and I've got to get all these things done. And it was very stressful. It was a lot of over-functioning. And so today I want to talk about really knowing your limitations. And that sounds not very sexy, but limitations, it's really, really important to know what your limitations are. I have a certain amount of time in my day that won't ever change. I have a certain amount of energy that I have access to. I have a certain capacity for relationships that I get to pay attention to. And a really key thing for me was knowing that when I said yes to one thing, I was saying no to something else. So if I said yes to certain relationships that were kind of okay, but weren't exactly what I wanted, then I was really saying no to the relationships that were what I wanted. If I was saying yes to jobs that were kind of okay, but then, I was giving up, it was costing me jobs that I really wanted, or being like I am today, self-employed. I couldn't run my self-employed business the same way with a full-time job in tow. There are competing interests. So I'd really like to just dig into those limitations and really getting honest with ourselves. That's the key. Get honest, and then you can realistically set your priorities. Yeah. So how has that worked in you? Were you also the over-functioning type?
I definitely, well, because I love lots of things.
Yes.
I love lots of projects. I love art and all of those things, and I love relationships. So you're trying to make more friends and do more things, and I was kind of raised in the superwoman era. So it's if you're not doing it all, if you're not doing all the jobs and all the things, and actually putting myself through school, I had 4 jobs and 2 children, and I was a single mom, and it was just do more, and you feel awful and terrible, and then you have to prioritize, and you have to see what you value more, and are the relationships that I'm really pouring into, are those the relationships that are giving back, and I'm getting the same reciprocal energy, right? And are they the ones that I really value? Am I spending more time with my kids? If I say that I value the time with my family, am I truly? So in that way, I had to prioritize it by looking at my calendar or, whatever the tools are that I would use. A calendar sometimes is important to say, where am I spending? I say I value my family, and I saw them once this week, right? So just finding ways to, using tools to say, and what do I really value, and how do I prioritize those things? Yeah, so maybe put away some of those projects that you really love.
Yeah, that was really huge for me because I saw value in everything. So, I could see, even if it was a job I didn't really deep down want to do, and I knew it was taking away, I was actually resentful because it was taking away from what I really wanted to do. But I could justify it easily by saying, well, I love the people there, or, they give me good benefits, or, we find the things that are still valuable and that we love, but it's still costing us. The cost was still too much, more than I was willing to pay. So I really today get honest. Am I okay with the cost? If I do this thing, am I okay with the cost of saying no to something else? What am I saying no to if I'm saying yes to this? If I'm saying yes to this job, whatever opportunities I have with my time, like I only have so much time, and if I'm dedicating 40 hours of time or 50 hours of time, then that leaves me with, realistically, this little bit of time to do something else. So
also motives. What is my motive?
Yeah.
Because I look at jobs that I've had, and what is my motive for staying in a job and not taking the leap of faith to do the thing that I really want to do. So I think there's a little bit of motivation in there. Like, what, am I in fear? Is that the reason why I haven't taken that leap? Is it, just believing that I don't have enough time? So I just think motives was important.
I know for me, a huge motive was I couldn't say no. I was really in
I think
fear
saying no is hard sometimes.
and guilt to say no. I didn't want to say no to relationships. I didn't want to say no to jobs. And I had fear. If I give this up, what is going to happen, right?
Am I going to lose those relationships?
Am I going to be alone? Am I going to be able to find a better job? Am I going to make it in my own business? If I give up this project, is that going to cripple me in some other area? There was a lot of fear. I also realized, and this has been within maybe the last year or two that I've had this awareness, I was afraid of failure in the one thing that I wanted to do. So I would have lots of plan Bs, right?
Me too.
I had lots of plan Bs. Well, my plan Bs were stealing from me. Aww. Because, there's a philosophy in gardening. I think we talked about this last week. When you prune, like if you want to grow a really big pumpkin, you cut off all of the other pumpkins on that vine, and that one pumpkin will take all of the resources from that vine. But if you have competing pumpkins, then they can't all grow to that big capacity. So it's very similar in what you choose to do in your priorities. Like if you can identify your one purpose, your one thing that you want to accomplish, like all of those other little projects or hobbies or jobs or things that you're afraid to let go of are costing you, because you are like that vine, right? You're the resource, and you only have a certain amount of energy and time to give. So just like that pumpkin vine, you got to trim off all of the extras, and it's hard. What came up for me when I was giving up all of the other little projects, it was such a cleansing experience for me, but it was hard to say no to people when they wanted to hang out, because if I really got honest, and this is the key, honesty is always the key, but when I really got honest, I didn't want to go have coffee with them. It felt like a burden, and I felt relief when I said no. But I felt obligated. So that was one piece. There was the fear. There was the obligation of, having that job. I had a lot of loyalty programming that I needed to stay loyal, that good people hung on forever and ever and ever. And they always kept trying and they always made it work. And I had that belief system was really sabotaging my ability to recognize seasons. Because there's like a very built-in cycle of seasons. And one job for me that would have been was amazing. Eventually, it's okay to say I learned everything I needed to learn from this job. And it's no longer an equal compensation. And it's okay to acknowledge the end of that season, celebrate what was and let it go. The same with relationships and projects and volunteer activities, all of those things.
Because we want to serve.
But very often I found myself resentful because I was hanging on to all of these things and I was still like wanting these other things. And I couldn't have those things because I didn't have space for them. You have to let go of things in order to have space for them.
I was thinking about what you said about loyalty because I know that's a high value I had. And not to say that I'm not loyal still, but when that loyalty is costing me that freedom and the happiness and joy that I feel because it's not like a hell yes, right? It's not like a hell yes, I want to do this. And if I'm not in that space, then I'm holding back and I'm not saying that I'm not a loyal person, but what are my reasons for being loyal? And is that a high priority because I'm afraid of looking bad to other people, going back to our good girl thing? What are my reasons for holding on to that loyalty or to that value? And sometimes we just have to look at our values and reprioritize them, and doesn't mean we don't have it anymore. We just are looking at how that's serving us.
So loyalty is definitely something I've thought about a whole lot since, really since revamping my whole life, and leaving my marriage was a big catalyst of that. And what I've realized with loyalty is loyalty to myself comes first. I must be true to me first. So if I'm choosing between loyalty to a job or a person and being loyal to myself, I must always choose me. I will no longer betray myself, because that's a domino effect. If I betray myself, I actually betray everyone.
Well, you can't trust you.
Yeah, and it's not honoring to anybody else. It's not honest. I'm not being authentic. I'm not really being true to other people if I'm not first being true to myself. So when I think about loyalty, like it's always, am I being loyal to myself first? And then loyalty is earned. I used to give away loyalty freely, and I don't do that anymore. My loyalty is not unconditional. My love is unconditional, but my loyalty is not unconditional. So if someone breaks my trust and betrays me or damages me, like I don't have any obligation to continue being loyal to them.
Exactly.
But I used to have that in reverse. I used to be loyal no matter what, even if they were harming me, or, we've talked about jobs a little bit here. So in that scenario, maybe they're starting to exploit me and I'm feeling that, right? I don't have an obligation to be loyal to someone who's exploiting me. I don't have an obligation to be loyal to a partnership where I'm being taken advantage of or mistreated. So that really got to up level for me. Where am I placing my loyalty? And what are the conditions for that loyalty? So for me, what was important was developing a list of rights that I had. So like, if you think of basic human rights, and I call it my boundaries manifesto, but I write out like what rights I have, and then I get to really compare, like, is this person I'm being loyal to, do they honor all of these basic human rights that I have? And
I've actually written one of those too. I didn't call it a manifesto, but the word manifesto came up when you when you said that. But yeah, it's important for us to see what we deserve to have as human beings, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I did kind of just have a default that I'm just loyal. You know, if we are in a relationship or we've developed something, then I'm just blindly loyal.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting when I started looking at, you know, are my basic rights being honored? It was very confronting to see how often they weren't, or, you know, a couple of them were really being violated. And so that was very helpful in releasing any of that guilt I was hanging on to, around being, you know, rude or mean or whatever, to be disloyal and to let them go. It was really a reframing for me. Oh, yeah, this relationship has become dishonoring. It's okay to let it go. And it's also, there's no judgment around acknowledging the ending of a season. There's nothing bad or wrong with the situation or with me for that to dissolve and end. Because that loyalty one was such a big one for me.
Me too. Really,
really big. I tend to be a very loyal person, and I think a lot of that is conditioning, that we believe that it's what the good person does. Right?
Do we have any questions? Saying no opens doors. Truth.
Yeah, so just like when we said, when you say yes to something, hi Emily. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. The reverse is also true. So when you're saying no to other things, I went through a cleansing process for me when it was, I was working with a coach, and I had already let go of a lot. Like, I had already quit my job. I had already, I had let go of my marriage. I had let go of several different projects, and I felt really good about it. Like, I had really done a good purge, but I still was, bless you. I still was like in the purging process, and didn't realize it. And she said, you know, I don't really know, and I don't need to know what all is on your calendar, but I think there's about 30% that still needs to go. And you choose what that 30% is, but there's about 30% that's still there. And I was like, damn it. And I remember I ended up letting go of another business. I let go of an association that I had founded that I was really attached to, but it was a lot of work without much return. And I let go of some other even money-making tasks that were still part of those plan Bs, right? And they were taking away from the purpose, the one thing that I really wanted to be doing. So,
and the flip side is all of a sudden you have this amazing amount of time to just be, to just enjoy life, to just enjoy the things that really do matter to you. And you don't realize it until your calendar isn't so full.
I love that you're bringing this up, because it's not just room for work, but it is room for pleasure and
we forget
life.
that sometimes we get to play.
Yeah.
I have that 5-year-old inside of me. That's why I bring that up. But it's true. We could spend a lifetime working, and tomorrow it will be there, and the next day, just like the dishes and the laundry. And that beautiful sunshine isn't always there. We have those winters, those snowmageddons and other things. And so there's just not enough. There is enough time. There's plenty of time as long as we make room. But I think sometimes we just forget.
Though.
Yes, priorities again. And sometimes we just forget to play. I find that a lot with some of the people I work with, and it's, we talk a lot about date night, just having some quality time together. And they'll say, I don't have time. And I go, but it's a priority for your relationship to have some fun, because definitely there's plenty of time for work, right?
Yeah,
and children and all the things that take our time and attention.
Yeah, you're either going to master your time or it's going to master you. And a lot of us get mastered by our time, and we don't end up living the lives that we really want and the quality of life that we really want. I was reading a book the other day, and something hit me. when we were talking about, or they were talking about this time principle and how someone was saying, well, I'm going to work really hard right now, and then later in retirement, then I'll be able to spend all this time.
And you hear so many of those stories where they,
Well, and what he brought up, I thought this was such a good point, is he said, that man was giving up time to go to his son's football games or, doing things with his family. And he said, you may have time later, but you'll never get this childhood back. And so time is not the same. Like you can't have the same experiences later that you can have today. Some of these experiences are one shot only. And that is a sobering thought, right?
I've actually heard stories, one in our family actually, where someone waited and waited and waited and until retirement, and they died 2 years into their retirement. So they spent the other 60 years or however long waiting and saving time, and it's not the same. It does go fast.
Yep. So. And I know for me, when I'm stuck in that mentality, because I've certainly been there, I'm just going to give it all up. I'm going to be totally like in deprivation mode so that later I can have it all. It's such a lie. It's really interesting because sometimes when that later happens, then I can't unwind. Like I'm so stuck in productivity and like earning my worth and my value that when that moment comes and I'm just supposed to enjoy, I don't know how to enjoy. I don't know how to just have pleasure. So what I've learned for me is it has to be incorporated as just part of my life. Part of my way of being is that I get to just be, there was a book that says, counterbalancing. You're counterbalancing your work. And for me, it's all about intention. Like, what have I put down on my calendar as, this is the amount of time I want to spend on this particular thing, and this is the amount of time that I really want to spend in my relationships or whatever that priority is. And I've had some people sometimes that have been like, well, you have to pencil everything in. That's my way of being intentional with my time. I don't know that that's everybody's way. Right. But I do know even those pleasure things, I'm so much better if I put them on my calendar. I literally will write a list of like, these are the things that I can just get up and go do that bring me peace, bring me joy, bring me laughter. And I will put them on my calendar so that I have a reminder, hey,
don't forget.
Shut the laptop and go do something fun, because I can easily get caught up in that productivity mindset where I think that I have to work all of these hours in order for it to be productive or worth something. But what I've actually found, and I'm sure like you too have found, that when you play and when you are doing the things that bring you joy, you actually have so much more energy.
It re-energizes you and so I think Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say this, just one of the indicators, does it make you happy? Now, there are times when work is really fun for me, and I know lots of people where work is really fun. But there's other ways to have fun, and back to your counterbalance. I talk about counterbalance because we're weightlifters, right? And we do that little pull-up machine because I can't quite do it all the way sometimes. But when I have that help and that counterbalance, then I can do that more easily. And just other things come a lot easier when we are in that mode of, does it make you happy? Does it bring you joy? The things that bring you peace, the things that help re-energize you. So
Yeah, and I love my work. Like, it is fun to me.
It is.
And there's different types of fun and joy that I get to acknowledge in my life. Work for me is very active. right? It does take a lot of energy. I usually am writing a lot. I write about really intense things. My coaching is intense. Like, it's just all intense.
So sometimes you need some downtime.
And I understand that about me, that I'm very, I'm an intense person, and that's totally cool. I'm good with that. And I get to intentionally take breaks from that and do something that's a little more lighthearted or reflective, or like, I love nature. That's really rejuvenating for me, to just go garden, do something that doesn't really take a lot of mental gymnastics. And so I don't believe that you really have to have work that you hate and then you're taking breaks from it. You get to still have work you love, and you still get to acknowledge that there's other elements of your life that really need nourishment and that will really nourish you and give back.
For me, it's the sun.
Yes.
I love just being out in the sun. I put my
too.
face up there, and just re-energizing for me.
It's a whole new, when springtime rolls around, it's a whole new existence for me. I'm like, I get to just sit and bask in the sun. So important. So I guess as we wrap up, the most important thing from this conversation is we have room for a few things. We have room for a few really quality, deep relationships, maybe one or two really passionate jobs, right? Not like 4 jobs that are taking you every direction.
Some projects.
But like really a purpose and something that is a passion for you. We have just a little bit of space for that. We have a little bit of space for hobbies and things that we really love, or volunteer work. Like,
that's what I was going to say next, is that some people have such big hearts and they want to give so much, but there's balance there too.
There is, and you can also wire, like for me, I was able to wire my work to meet that need. Those are very interchangeable for me. Most of my work I freely give away.
Sure.
And I love it. I really, really love it. And I get compensated for some of my bigger packages. So it's very, like, I don't need to have a bajillion other volunteer things, because I have that
the work that we're doing
that is like, it's my thing, it's my love, and I get to really radically change lives doing that. So I think for those of us that are really wired that way, and especially women, that's such a feminine energy thing, we can make that, like, build that into our work and our lives. But I guess my point is, acknowledge, be honest about the small amount of time and energy that you have, the attention that you have. Realize that it's valuable because it is limited, right?
And prioritize.
So valuable. So when you treat it as limited and valuable, everybody else gets to as well. And like we've said many times before, you will always get what you settle for. And so when we're talking priorities and the things that we're allowing into our space, this totally applies. Like, whatever we are settling for in our space, whether that's jobs or people or projects or whatever, it is costing you something, right? Whatever you settle for is costing you something. So a very key question as we wrap up is, when you look at what you're saying yes to, ask yourself what the cost is for those things. So, by keeping this relationship, what is the cost to other relationships?
And the benefits.
Right. Yeah. So then you get to really make an informed decision about how you're going to intentionally build your schedule. So just remember, you're the master of your life. Like, you are the ultimate authority.
Yes.
You call all the shots. So instead of letting time dictate for you, or, just whatever shows up, dictate for you what your life looks like, you get to dictate who's in your life, what jobs, what things, whatever is in your life. You are always the ultimate authority. So,
and imagine how that feels. Very freeing.
Feels really, really great. Sometimes it hurts, because then you got to practice saying no, and you got to really practice taking that steering wheel and knowing what's important to you, getting clear, all of those things. It can be hard, but it's so worth it.
It does get easier, just so you know.
It does. Yeah. Once you've really laid out that plan, then you're
consistent.
You don't have to think about it much. And then you just reevaluate it occasionally. But yeah, it's totally worth the legwork, instead of just letting life just run you. So I did not see any more questions come up. So I think we'll wrap up with that. Thank you again for joining this conversation and being here with us today. Every week you can join us live on Thursday mornings at facebook.com/groups/Braveheart Conversations. And you can find all of our past episodes on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. Also, if you have any questions or you'd like to pick a topic for one of our following episodes, you can certainly do that. My email is defytheaverage@gmail.com, or you can reach Marie.
Marie@mariesgold.com. Yeah, we love questions and whatever you have for us. We like to engage with you, so yeah, let us know.
Yeah, I think my favorite topics are the ones that other people point out, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's so great.
Sounds awesome.
So yeah,
or argue with us too. We like that.
Yeah.
We love different perspectives.
Sometimes those are the best topics. When people are like, yeah, but what about this? And that just really gives us some great
conversations.
Fodder for our next conversation. So anyway, with that, we will close up. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your week, and we will see you again next Thursday.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.